guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. For the scent of the day, I'm still at the same spot on this sea coral candle because I haven't burned it in a few days. And secondly, I only have just a little bit left in my air wick and I'm really trying to make it through this. If you're new around here, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you will never miss anything interesting. And also, I do upload every single day on Instagram and on Reddit, so if you like new, daily, updated content, be sure to go follow me over on there. So here we are with another Sunday tutorial and review. And it just feels like I just filmed last week's one, so this week it certainly went by really fast. Before we get started, here's a quick look of the palette of the week, and this one is by Menagerie Cosmetics and it's called Killer Purr. And we're going to get right into the eye look tutorial first, and if you want to stick with me for the second part of the video, we're going to do a full review on this palette as well. So let's hop right into the tutorial. Hey everybody, welcome to the first part of this video, which is the tutorial, and we're going to get started on this eye look. And the eye look that we're going to create today is kind of a hybrid between a cut crease and a halo eye. And I just really enjoy doing this one, and I find it just really therapeutic because it has a lot of kind of similar steps in it, and it's just really fun. So before we get started, we're going to do the prep work like always, and for that I just used my L'Oreal Infallible Longwear eye pencil, and look how short this guy is getting. And I just sharpened it so it's really sharp as well. So let's go ahead and put this eyeliner on, and I'm going to tight line with it. So I'm just going to hit my upper waterline and make sure this upper waterline is nice and filled in. And the reason that I do this is because it makes your lashes look a lot fuller. So when you wear mascara, it just gives the appearance that your lash line is completely filled in. So after I get the upper waterline, I like to keep my eye at its natural state and then go in between the lashes as well. Just make sure you're filling in any blank spots that you see. Once you're all done with that, now it's time to go in with your eye primer, and of course you can use any one that you have success with. But my favorite one for really extensive looks is this Revlon Candid Concealer, and I just really like the way that shadows perform on top of this one. And I just recently saw this on Amazon for $3, so that's a really good deal if you wanted to check it out. I will link to it below so you don't have to be worried about searching for it. And when I blend out my eye primer, I like to get it all the way into this inner portion of my eye, and then I bring it all the way up to my brow bone as well, because especially for this eye look, we're bringing the shadows up pretty high, and you want to make sure your whole lid and brow bone is incorporated. Now we're ready to get started on the actual eyeshadow. Okay, so like usual, we're going to start with two brushes. I'm going to take a small flimsy detail brush, and I'm going to actually use this for placement and to outline the colors. And then my secondary brush is just a dome blending brush, and I'm going to use this to blend each color out after I place it. So the first shade we're going to go into is called Pride. And whenever I'm starting an eye look, I always like to have my eye at rest because I do have hooded eyes. So I want to make sure that I'm taking the shades up high enough. And then I like to start in the center of my eye and just place a little dot. So you can see my little dot in the screen right there, and I just like to place that there so I can assess if I'm doing this correctly or not. So once my dot is on there, I kind of look around a little bit, make sure I can still see it when my eye is at its natural state. And once I'm satisfied with that, then I follow this dot with more color all the way to an outer point. And then I follow this dot from this side, and I want to make sure that I keep it in position, and I bring this all the way onto the inner corner. Now once I'm satisfied with that placement, then I just go ahead and darken it up a little bit. Once you get that brown on there, then take your blending brush and go ahead and give that a good solid blend. Okay, now we're ready to go into our next shade, which is called Baobab. and it's the only green shade in this palette. So we're just going to place this on the harsh line of the brown. Now go in with your blending brush again and try to get this green to blend out as best as you can. The next shade we're going to go into is called Main, and we're going to put that on the harsh line of the green. And then blend that yellow out. Okay, so now usually I don't do 4 colors on my upper lid, but I did choose to go in with the shade Chase just to kind of keep the line looking kind of clean around the edge. So I just took this around the edges just to clean it up a little bit. Now I gave that one final blend, and then we'll get to the next step. Okay, so I found with this palette it's kind of hard to make gradients, so you might need to go in with some of the shades that we use to kind of revamp them. So I'm just going to go ahead and reinforce some of the shades that we already put down. Alright, so once you get it as good as you can get it, then we're going to take the shade Cub and we're going to put this all over the lid. Once you have the yellow on there, take your brush and kind of run it through your crease a little bit to kind of blend the brown and the yellow together. This doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but it just makes it kind of look a little better in the end. Okay, now I'm going into a new brush, and the brush I'm using is a fluffy angled brush. And I'm taking the shade Mighty Roar, making sure to tap off my brush, and I'm just using this to kind of angle some darkness in my outer corner. You just have to gently tap. This is a very pigmented shade. It doesn't take much. And then with that same brush, you can get the inner corner just as well. Now you can take that flimsy detail brush that we were using before and kind of run over the little edges of this brown that we just placed on there. And it doesn't take much just to kind of mash that into the colors that are already previously there. Just kind of give it a slight blend so it matches in. Now I'm going back into my Revlon Candid Concealer, and I'm grabbing a bit bigger of a detail brush, but it's really flat at the end. And I'm just gonna go ahead and take some of this onto my brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and start making my cut crease. Okay, now the shape of this cut crease is a little bit different. I started close to the inside, but I just did enough so the little brown on the inside is still visible. And then I cut it off so the brown on the outside is still visible. Now, once you're happy with your shapes, we're gonna go into the shade called Lioness, and I'm just using that same brush that I used for my cut crease. And I'm gonna start packing this on top of the wet concealer. Okay, now before we move on, we gotta blend in our cut crease, so just take a small, dense buffing brush and go back into the shade Mighty Roar, and then stamp it along the outside edge of the cut crease, and stamp it along the inside edge as well. For the waterline, I thought a bronze would look really pretty with this look, so I'm just gonna go ahead and fill in my waterline. The next brush I'm going to go into is a really flat, thin brush. and I'm going into the shade called Watering Hole. And I'm just gonna place this really tight against my lower lash line. And I'm gonna jump into a pencil brush and go into the shade Drought and blend that really blue shade out with this one. Okay, don't worry, we're gonna clean all this up, but with that same pencil brush, I'm gonna go into the shade Prowl, and I'm just gonna stick this on my inner corner. So now you wanna grab a cotton pad with some micellar water, and then go around the edge of your look and clean it up. Okay, now the look is done, so I'm gonna go ahead and put on some mascara and I will be right back. Okay guys, so here's the final look with just mascara, and like I always say, if you want to see it in full-blown glam, I have linked down below the Saturday pictorial, so you can go check that out if you want to see what it looks like with some lashes on. And make sure you comment down below and let me know what you think about this look. So if you guys want to stay and hang out with me a little bit more, we're going to get into part 2 right now. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 where we're going to talk a little bit about this palette and review it. So first things first, I always like to talk about the packaging. And everything that you get from Menagerie Cosmetics always has some intrinsic artwork on the front, and the illustrator is always mentioned on the back if you're curious. And this is just your typical cardboard packaging. And then when you do open it up, you'll see a mid-sized mirror inside. And then when you do look at the color story, you'll notice that it's a warm tone neutral color story with a pop of blue. And it does have a really nice light to dark gradient in it. And there are 12 shades in this palette, each coming in at 2 grams each, which is an astronomical amount of eyeshadow per pan. There are only 2 formulas in this palette. There are mattes and there are metallics. This palette mainly consists of matte shades, and there are 10 of them in this palette. All the mattes are very intensely pigmented, and the color that you put on your eyes is the exact color that you see in the pan. I found that they build and they layer nicely, but they are very difficult to blend out, and they did leave me with some harsh lines that I just couldn't blend. And sadly, 1/3 of my matte eyeshadows in here are covered in hard pan, so they're very difficult to use. As far as the metallics, there are only 2 metallics in here. There's this one right here, and then there's this one up here. So as you can see, the metallics are very similar in color, and that kind of bothers me because I would appreciate if there are only 2 metallics for them to be a little bit different in color so you can create much more differing eye looks. And the formula of the metallics are very thick and kind of crumbly. But what I do like about them is that you can build them to a very highly reflective finish, and they pick up very well on a brush. Okay, now I'm gonna put up some swatches of this palette so you can see how every shade looks swatched out. Okay, now we're gonna get into some facts about this palette, guys. So the entire inspiration for this palette is based on lions and their natural habitat. So as you can see by the cover artwork and every single shade name, they all have to do with lions and their habitat. So I think that's really interesting, and I do like that. Next, the company that makes this palette is called Menagerie Cosmetics, and they're a very small, indie, family-owned business. And each one of their products is handmade in small batches. Now we're going to get into my favorite part of this video, which is the cost. If you went out to buy this entire palette as it is today, it would cost you $38.95. Breaking that down a little bit, it comes to $3.25 per shadow. And breaking that down even further, it comes to $1.62 per gram. So looking at all those costs and comparing them to similar values on the market, you're getting a pretty good, affordable price with this palette. This palette is cruelty-free and it is vegan. And now we're going to get into my recommendation. Now, when I personally use this, I didn't get any patchiness or any creasing. I did get a significant amount of kickback in the pan and a slight amount of fallout on my face. And if you are personally on the fence about purchasing this, I can't say that I would recommend it. And there are 3 reasons why. First, I had such a hard time blending this and it left me with harsh lines. Secondly, 1/3 of my palette is covered in hard pan, which makes it really difficult to use. And lastly, the similarity of metallics makes it very difficult to create varying eye looks. So yeah guys, while it is fun to play with this color story, I can't say it stood out as an all-around impressive palette. So that's all for this video today. I hope you found it enjoyable and somewhat helpful. And if you did like it, please consider giving it a giant thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, just hit that thumbs down button. And until next time,